All right.
What's up, guys, and welcome to the Love and Thunder podcast, episode number
16.
Okay, marching forward.
Lucky
16.
number. That's my number.
I'm your host, Dave Lipson.
And I'm Camille Leblanc-bazinet, co-hosting today.
We know each other. We like each other.
Sometimes.
We got married,
most
had
times.
kids, did the whole thing. And we got a great show for you guys today. We're going to talk a little bit about all different types of health markers, blood glucose, insulin sensitivity, blood pressure, all kinds of awesome stuff that you need to know as a person who wants to thrive, not just survive through life.
Yes.
As well as for the first time, we're going to be taking live calls from, I don't even know who is out there. We'll
From
have
our
to see
audience.
who calls in.
Very exciting.
With some questions that we're going to answer right here on the spot. So why don't we just kick this thing off, Cami? I know you wanted to talk, like you had gadgets today. You got something in the mail.
No, I became a little bit more robotic today.
And you have your gadget? Where's your gadget?
It's on my arm, but it's under my...
It's not the microphone.
No.
You're wearing one of those insulin monitors.
One of those
blood sugar.
CGM.
Okay. Tell us what is it now that you're half Cami, half Cyborg?
Yes, that is correct. I am now part of the new generation, half AI, half me.
Cool. That's it. Elon Musk said it was going to happen, and guess what? We're here.
Yes.
You're Cami Cyborg.
If I say things today, it might not be fully coming from me.
She's going to be the first
I have
robot
no control.
to tell me that robots have feelings too.
Okay, so I just got my, it's called continuous glucose monitoring. Wow, that's a...
Continuous glucose monitoring?
Yes.
How does it work? Does it do you have to prick yourself? Is it already in your skin? How does it work?
Well, so it's like this round plastic thingy.
Okay.
That I think has little robot in it.
So it's like the nicotine patch?
Yes, but there's a needle that is attached to it.
That's in it.
So it's in me. It's attached to me.
All
in
right.
me.
So I'm already thinking about the cranial implant, but keep going.
Yes.
Okay.
And what it does is it's hooked up to my phone.
Yep.
And I can scan it through the day.
What's your glucose right now? Jake, you want me to pull your phone out?
Well, my phone is, we're recording on my phone right now.
I can tell you.
But then
Holy shit!
Let me talk. Jeez.
Okay.
But then I scan it through the day and it tells me what my glucose level is at.
Okay.
So
back up for a second. Why?
Why would I do that?
Yeah, why would you do that? I mean, you don't have diabetes.
Yeah.
You're not pre-diabetic. I don't think you are, at least.
No.
And as somebody who's just kind of who's seemingly healthy without any issues, why would somebody be interested in even monitoring this?
Yeah, so I think that for me, especially, I'm 34 now, going towards 35.
Yeah,
which
that
is
would
the
be the next number. That's the next number. Yep.
Shut up. It's late, okay?
Well, I'm getting a call. Hello?
No, stop it. I've had a baby, and it's just my hormones are changing a lot, and I've noticed that a lot of the things I do are not affecting me the same way, and I want to have...
When you say not affecting you the same way, meaning you're not responding to training the same way
I'm not responding to training the same way. I'm not responding to food the same way. So I want to see what is affecting me more or less. So as women get older, we tend to have more stress, more cortisol, and we get our relationship with insulin start to differ, where we can't really eat as much carb as we used to. So I want to see more in detail what type of trainings affect my glucose level more, and what type of food affect my glucose most.
So maybe you think you're eating healthy. You're oh yeah, I have this salad with this dressing on it, and it's low carb, so it shouldn't spike my blood sugar, and I shouldn't get a big insulin response. And you might find out that that's actually not true.
Yeah, and at the opposite, you might be eating rice, and that doesn't spike your glucose at all. So I'm just very curious because I feel I have this gut feeling about certain food that I eat that I'm when I eat X, Y, and Z, I do feel more of a response of having maybe a little bit too much glucose in my system, or I'll feel tired after it, even though
you'll eat a meal and get sleepy.
Yeah, even though those food don't have any carbs.
So it could be just honestly a high fat meal that could even do that.
Well, so I've been noticing that with certain type of whey protein.
Okay.
That I'll drink it and then I'll feel a little sleepy after.
Okay.
So I also want to see like if when I eat like too much protein or certain type of protein, how that affects my glucose level. So this is for me like a full-on curiosity, like trying to learn as much as I can about myself, especially as I'm getting older and as my hormones are changing and body are changing. I want to keep my inflammation down.
Well, let's back it up for a second, though, because I think people out there may or may not even understand the role of glucose in your body and its processes and performance and all that stuff. And we can kind of break that down in some simple terms. But basically, like, we really don't want people spiking their blood sugar too much too often throughout the day. The reason for that is because every time you spike your blood sugar, and you can do it pretty easily with like anything that's kind of like highly processed, carbohydrate dense, sugar laden type of food, or just eating a big meal, or even certain types of foods you might even find out really spike your blood sugar. When that happens too frequently, every time it goes on, you have to remove that excess blood sugar from your bloodstream to auto-regulate your body. And so your pancreas is tasked with secreting insulin. And if that happens too frequently, you can become resistant to insulin, where you're always kind of in a state of storage, because insulin's role is to take excess energy and store it in the form of muscle glycogen or in adipose fat tissue.
Yes.
And so if you are becoming resistant to it, that's how you end up with people saying like, I don't understand, I'm eating 2,000 calories a day and I still have this tire around my waist.
Yeah.
Or even just kind of feeling constantly sleepy, in addition to the fact that hyperinsulinemia, which is a chronic state of too much insulin in the blood, we know is highly connected with most chronic diseases, heart disease, diabetes, Alzheimer's, cancer. So yeah, not something we really want. So for long-term health, you definitely want to look at that and your insulin sensitivity, and the tests to get if you're looking at blood work, be one, to kind of check out your fasting glucose, but also to look at things like A1C and your IGF-1, your insulin-like growth factor, to see where that is in the spectrum. Is that all looking in line? Because if those things are all elevated, that points to some level of insulin resistance, and you can reclaim that resistance, which is so awesome, right? I mean, there are always ways for you to resensitize and retrain your internal metabolics so that you can be a highly efficient machine, where maybe those spikes that get really kind of tall and wavy become a little bit more granular throughout the day. That's a word I use, granular.
Yes.
Okay. But yeah, I mean, that's why somebody would want to look at that, right?
Yes, yes. You want to look at that, and going back to like the tire around the waist, it's a sign of insulin insensitivity. So you might be cutting.
You call me insensitive.
Sometimes you are. And the thing is that you might be cutting the calories a lot, and you're like, okay, my calories are coming down, but somehow like my weight isn't, or the body isn't changing, and that could be correlated with your cortisol, or what you're eating is constantly still spiking that sugar up.
And it's not just what you eat, but it's when you eat, it's how much you eat.
Exactly.
It's the timing of all of it. We talk about things like, hey, there are certain periods of time where it can be advantageous, for at least for muscle growth and muscle protein synthesis, to try to spike your blood sugar maybe after some intense heavy lifting, to use that insulin response to try to drive nutrients into muscle cells and uptake all those nutrients so it can kind of heal and remodel and grow.
But if you're not sensitive to it, you can't do that.
Doesn't matter, yeah, because you're just going to end up kind of fat, right? It's contextual.
And the other thing is, there's a lot of ways to try to minimize that amount of glucose in your body, and would be things like eating smaller meal, drinking a lot, exercising is a great way.
But it's not just high glucose or low glucose, because you don't want any extreme. You just want the right level.
We're talking a lot about high glucose because that's what most people are at and
in terms of
with.
Numbers, if I remember the scale correctly.
Wait, let me finish with what I was saying.
For that fasting glucose, though, like if somebody is like looking at their blood test and wondering, they'll obviously see if it's in or out of range. But typically the range is like it caps at like 100, right? Nanograms per deciliter or something like that.
It's milligram per nanoliter, I think.
One of those. Okay,
I'd
so
have to look at that
I think
again.
100 is the point where it's starting to get kind of high
Well, so
and
you're
almost out of range.
So if you're trying to do like be in ketosis, you're trying to stay between 70 and 90.
Yep.
And then when you eat a meal, it might go up to 130, but then you kind of want it back at 100 or under like 2 hours after that meal.
Got it. So, and there's a difference between like your fasting glucose versus like immediately after a meal. Obviously, you would see a raise in blood sugar.
Like fasting would be first thing in the morning.
Okay, cool. So, hey, can we switch gears and talk a little bit about some other health
Wait,
markers?
I just wanted to finish one thing.
Please.
Because this is another part of why I do this is to really see the effect of training on me and see if the way I train is helping myself or if it's hurting me. And again, as like women age, there's some type of training, like for example, if you do long endurance type of training,
Yep.
for some women, as you get older, it starts to raise your cortisol.
Okay.
So I really want to do this to see if for me interval training, which is supposed to be great for IGF-1,
Yep.
or long endurance without the high intensity and low intensity, if it correlates more in a healthier way to train with me.
It
So
would be
this is
interesting to
not
look
just
at.
for food, but I want to see how I respond to training itself.
Yep. It'd be interesting to look at. It kind of depends on what kind of state you're actually going into the workout in, because like if you go into like a high intensity interval training workout without a lot of blood sugar, you know, just a fasted state basically, you know, that would be a catalyst for actually stimulating glucagon, which would mobilize, you know, stored glycogen back into glucose, where you might see a raise in your blood
Yes.
sugar because of the workout.
But then you want to keep following it after through the day, because if your average gets lower, that's helping you.
But funny enough, like after I eat a big meal, what really helps my blood sugar come down is like a hard 10-minute walk or getting on the bike, right? Which also helps facilitate digestion. And I think like...
But different, again, it's different guys and girls.
yeah, it's probably...
Our body works so different, and the more I'm like learning about it, the more drastic it is.
So as you kind of come up with protocols and ideas, I think some of the common ones for regaining insulin sensitivity or just controlling your blood sugar is, one, to eat lower glycemic foods. So there's a glycemic index that's basically telling you how much this food is going to affect your blood sugar. So moving to things maybe certainly away from the highly processed stuff that is so calorically dense, to maybe like more natural whole foods or vegetables, or certain types of fruits that are just kind of a lower sugar value can be important. Fasting can probably help that as well, right? Like,
Fasting is great.
and I know that we do something sometimes
Fasting is great for so many things, like rebalancing your gut biome, like giving your hormones a little break, but also definitely increasing your insulin sensitivity. So when you eat something that is not so sweet, it tastes sweet again.
So sometimes we do, like, actually a lot of the time during the year, we end up doing some version of like an intermittent fast, where we don't eat a big meal until 1 or 2 o'clock in the afternoon.
Well, we do it almost every day.
It's spent mostly fasted. And the way that we'll do that is, it's not that we won't have anything, but we usually have maybe like a cup of coffee with some collagen and MCT oil. And we actually have some friends who have done the same thing, but with like a stick of butter. We don't do the stick of butter because still, like, it doesn't work for my stomach or yours. But there's a really cool company here called Strong Coffee that sent me a care package.
It's really good.
This is...
And I'm a
let's see.
I'm a fancy coffee person.
This is grass-fed collagen, MCT coconut oil, L-theanine, and what's called neurofactor in instant coffee that you literally just put in a cup. You can have it hot or cold. You froth it up for like 10 seconds, and you can put some ice cubes in it. It tastes delicious, and you could basically use that to try to do some version of an intermittent fast, where this will help you with energy, mental acuity, and most importantly, like not feeling constantly hungry, just to get over that hunger and give you some sense of satiety. Also your brain health too, right?
Yeah, MCT oil is just great.
And along with that, it's funny because like...
Is it time for a call?
No.
Not
We're
yet?
I want to talk about blood pressure a little bit, because I think that was one health
I'm
marker.
excited for the
That was
calls.
one health marker you want to talk about, which is obviously relevant to you, because I know your glucose and IGF-1 like have tested high sometimes. Like, one thing that I'm concerned with and keep an eye on, and a lot of guys and girls deal with it, is just higher blood pressure. And my blood pressure, it's not like clinically like, hey, you need to go on blood pressure medication, but it's kind of like right on the cusp of like it's kind of like the first range of hypertensive.
Yeah, it's like a little,
Yep,
a little scary.
It's just a tea. It's like a
Just a
cock
little
tease.
scary.
Sometimes I want to be like, you know what, just be fucking high so I can just give me the meds and be done with this.
Yeah, but you don't want to be on meds.
Exactly. And you know what I've noticed as a guy, first I've always kind of had higher blood pressure because I've always had a lot of muscle mass, and yeah, that stuff does like run in my family.
And you
a
also
little
stress out of your freaking
stress
mind.
out of my mind. Yeah, there are factors that really contribute to this. So the big one that has contributed to my blood pressure getting higher, number one, is just like overall body mass, like body weight. And people take this for granted, like the BMI, body mass index, whether it's muscle mass or fat mass, like I don't think your body really cares in terms of blood pressure because it's a one-to-one relationship where once my body weight starts getting like over 245, the blood pressure is just too fucking high.
I mean, it's a lot to feed.
It's a lot to feed, and you know, I think like when people are looking at their blood pressure, there are norms. I think you've seen everything from like, okay, normal is 110 over 60 or 120 over 70. You know, for me, I'm always like one of those guys that tests like 130, 140, sometimes 150. But if I make some specific changes to my lifestyle, I can get it under control and back into a good range. So I sent you like a screenshot of my blood pressure test the other day, and it was 109 over 75, which technically was normal, but for me, like I've started to run, so like aerobic activity helps with that. I tried to lose a little body weight, so I went from like 245, now I'm closer to like 235, and that helped. And then from a dietary perspective, like pulling back on carbohydrates, pulling back on processed food, and just eating more whole foods, specifically ones with potassium. So that's why I got my little banana. Hello? Is this? It's a doctor calling. You gotta get your potassium, he says. So, introducing foods like that, and even like people don't realize spinach, there's probably more spinach potassium per unit in spinach than even a banana, but that really helps. And then I've even noticed like certain types of supplements or medications that aren't necessarily blood pressure medications. So this was recommended to me by one of the doctors that I work with at Live Health, the Human Optimization Clinic, and she was saying like, hey, you should try some tildalafil. If you guys are familiar with this, it's actually street name Cialis, which is like sex drug, you know, like boner pills.
Well, that explains a lot.
She said, you'll love it. You'll get awesome pumps in your workout. It'll bring your blood pressure down a good 10 points.
In your workout.
Yeah, exactly. And it did. It's low dose tildalafil, and it takes your blood pressure down 10 points, gave you some fun stuff. And I think, you know, people don't realize when I was younger, I was like, whatever, high blood pressure. Now as I get older, I start to realize that like the comorbidities are like one-to-one. Like you don't want high blood pressure.
Yes.
It gives you lots of issues. And even some issues that I'm dealing with now where like with my blood pressure always being a little high, my kidney function has always been a little bit low because those things have a congruent relationship. And
I feel like we're both like that now.
Yep.
Like at the end of my competitive career, I like didn't realize how broken down I was, like both my body and my hormones. And you know, as you get older, everything gets harder. And I think we're both like so obsessed with making sure that we're staying ahead of it, or at least like as in tune with it as we can. Because the more you learn about yourself, the more you change things. It's like you're just like, I think that's really how you're building that edge against decrepitude. It's not like just going in the gym and like, you know, working as hard as you can, but it's like, how can I put some like quality muscle on myself, because that's going to give me an edge. Like how can I like maximize my health right now, because that's going to give me an edge. When should I start supplementing with maybe HRT to like push back menopause or andropause, because that's going to give me an edge. It's like all those markers, like I think we're both starting to get really obsessed with it, because we see that life happens fast.
Yep.
Like I think like once you have a kid, like I feel
Every
like
week
since we
goes
have
by,
Zoe,
like, yeah.
it's, you know, every second is precious and it goes by fast.
Well, you brought up HRT, and that's like another thing that I've talked about before is like, you know, these things all can affect each other, right? So like HRT has its benefits, but one of the things to keep an eye on is whenever you're introducing androgens, you're taking stuff,
Yes.
you produce more red blood cells, which can increase your blood volume, your blood viscosity, increasing your blood pressure. So
Like what type, just be more precise, what type here, like testosterone for guys?
Yes, so testosterone or any anabolic for that will raise your red blood cell count.
Okay.
And that's something you got to keep an eye on as part of the management of some of these therapies is regularly getting blood work, regularly sometimes giving blood. You know that I just like gave blood a couple of weeks ago, and that even brought my blood pressure down too. But when your red blood cells get too high, like you got to keep an eye on it and understand how all these things can affect each other, because it's not just one thing. And I think that it's only responsible for you. No one's going to be an expert in your body except for you. You know, like no one's going to take that level of accountability and responsibility. So it's up to you to understand what you need. Go to the experts for advice, know where to go. But at the end of the day, like you got to keep an eye on this stuff.
Yeah, you really need to follow your gut feeling, because for me and you, there's so many times that you're like, okay, the expert is telling me this, but it doesn't feel good. And not in a way that is, oh, boohoo, it doesn't feel good because it's hard.
Yeah.
Like, that's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is that we go all in, we do the work, we do it exactly the way, they say to do it. And you're like, wait, it doesn't work.
Yep.
So, okay, maybe this is not it for me. Like, so now you get to try something new and learn about yourself.
Well, one thing we've learned about doctors is they really don't like being wrong. So like it's always like, well, if it didn't work, it must be something that you did wrong.
Yes, and everyone's different. We all have different background. We all have different genetic, all different culture, environment. Like there's just, we all have our own life experience on ourselves. So being like flexible is, it's really the way. Especially, I think, looking at a lot of the information, like most of it when it comes to like fitness training and nutrition has been done by men for men.
Yep.
So there's really there's finally starting to have a lot more information for women, but literally the way you eat doesn't work for me at all.
No, it doesn't. And vice versa. I've got my own can of worms, like where I don't really process fats, so they don't really affect me, both for better or worse. Yeah, they're awesome, they taste great, and I don't gain any weight or anything. But at the same time, I have a hard time producing cholesterol.
Yes.
Like I have very like dangerously
We're like
low
literally
cholesterol.
the opposite for that. I have a lot of super healthy cholesterol, and my body just
responds to the fat. You
Yes.
wear it instantly. And sometimes it's honestly like we're talking about medical stuff, but I think there's also a message here to really clearly be honest with yourself of like, what do you want? Like, what's the end game? What do you want long term versus what you want right now?
Yes.
And you've had this conversation. We've had it together, honestly, when it comes to bodybuilding and building muscle. Is like there was a point a few years ago where, one of our coaches was saying like, okay, Dave, you got to get to 270 pounds now for the next round of nationals or whatever. And we just knew like, hey, listen, like that's just not going to be a healthy thing.
Yes.
And it would be cool to put on muscle. And even now that I'm, looking at after the age of 40, what do I want the next, hopefully 30, 40 years to look like? I think there could be a compromise where, yeah, you want to be muscular, you want to have imposing aesthetics and feel strong, but you also want to prioritize health. And something I've been thinking about is just like that basic body mass index is like, do I really want to be like 250 pounds, or would I be okay at like 220 with much better health markers and not feeling like I have to be the biggest guy in the room or something like that?
Yeah, there's a lot of things that are fleeting. There's a lot of things that you need to ask yourself. Is this ego? Am I like stroking something that maybe maybe no? Or like, is it something that I really want to give it a shot and and see? But the more information you have, the better.
And I think where people make a mistake is when they don't look. They're like afraid to look, or they don't want to know about it.
We know so.
Or they learn about it, and somebody gives them the talk, and be like, hey, like do something about it now before it comes from. And it's like in one ear and out the other, and like yeah, whatever. You don't know what you're talking about. And
we both have been there, because when you're young, you think you're invincible.
Yep.
Like when I was competing in my 20s, it was like. I would have ran through a wall, because you're like.
There was that study where
you're
they
like,
took
I'm
Olympic
good, but then
athletes and
you
they said,
start
hey,
getting hurt, and you're like.
If there was a drug that would allow you to win an Olympic gold medal, but you'd lose 30 years of your life, would you take it? And like all of the Olympians said yes.
Wow.
And it's, that's the context, and I understand,
because you don't know what it means yet.
You don't know what it means yet,
but
and that feels like it's so far away, like it's never going to get there. And listen, like I am 100% a proponent of like living your best life, and don't be average. Don't be average, but
also keep in mind that like like life doesn't end at like 20. It doesn't end at 30. That's something that I've been thinking so much about these days because I feel like I'm entering my next life chapter. But I'm looking back at the
What was
amount.
the first chapter? It wasn't like, it was pre-life.
It was no, the next chapter of my current life. Like, you know, I feel like life is chapter, right? It was like I was like my young wild self, and then I like kind of, you know,
Like, see, Saved by the Bell, Miss Bliss, and then the high school, and then the, oh God, not the college years, but then the beach club
No,
school,
but it was,
right? Remember that one? Zach was like,
I don't know
Stacey
any
Carosi.
of that because I'm Canadian. I haven't watched any of those.
Oh, Mark Paul Gosselaar.
But
if
it
you're
was
listening,
like-
I fucking love you, man.
Right? It's like under 26, your brain is like developing. And then I do feel like when I turned 26, I was like, wait a second,
Yeah.
like I want to help people. I'm just a little speck of
You
sand.
might not be equipped to make any like major life-changing decisions before 26.
Yes.
Just FYI, if you're out there and you're
Yes.
younger and you think you should do something, just ask some
Wait
advice
until
from an
you're
older-
27.
Hey, in less than 5 minutes, let's take some calls. So we have some people that are actually, Jeremy, our podcast manager, has them
Wait,
on
let me
call
finish
waiting
real
right
quick
now.
before the call. I was going to say, I've accomplished a lot in like the first 30 years. I can like accomplish a lot more, you know?
Yeah, probably an equal
So
or
it's
greater
not
amount.
over, right? It's exciting.
Okay,
All right.
So who's
We have
this?
some
Who's calling in?
calls.
This is, I don't know. It's gonna be a surprise.
Okay, let's see. Let's take the call. Here we go.
Hey, this is Barry from Long Island. How the heck do I get rid of this tire around my waist? I can't even see my junk no more.
Whoa, okay. Barry from Long Island.
Well,
He's got the tire
that's
around
a
his waist. He
great
can't see his
question.
junk anymore. Thanks, Barry. Thank you for your call. He sounds like a great guy. Sounds like he's been eating pierogies at his grandma's house in New Hyde Park. What do you think, Cammy? Getting rid of the tire around the waist. You know, it's for people like Barry who are maybe not, you know, unquote fit, and they're wondering where to start. I think that there's like an easy 3-step process you can take. And the first step is go to your pantry and your refrigerator.
Yes.
And just take out all the shit that's gonna hurt you. So take away the soda, the highly processed food, the pizzas, the sugar, you know, laden stuff, the cookies. Like, just take it. I know there's an emotional attachment to it for a lot of us, so just take it, put it in a bag, and put it like at the top of a closet. So you don't have to throw it away.
Or
Maybe
go
you'll pick
give
it up
it.
later.
Go
but
give
just
it.
put it somewhere you're not gonna get out after. That's step one. Step two, go to the grocery store and shop just only at the perimeter of the grocery store. Skip the bakery, right? But you go, you take a right, you got your fruits and vegetables, then you got your meat, and you got your dairy aisle. Like, just, you know, go in there and pick maybe like 3 different types of fruits and vegetables you like to eat, 3 different types of meats you like to eat, maybe a couple good sources of fat, even if it's like butter and avocados or something. And then the last step is only eat that stuff. Don't even worry about quantity and macronutrients. Be like, okay, the only thing I'm going to eat is this stuff because it's probably have a much lower glycemic value that is ultimately going to help you regain better insulin sensitivity, lower your fasting glucose, and get you into a state where you have a much better shot at just fixing the internal chemistry before you start, you know, unquote, dieting.
Yeah. And another thing that's great for this is just doing some fasting.
Yep, that's another one. Get your MCT oil coffee and do some
fasting has been shown to reduce the waist circumference.
Do you want to take this next call?
Sure.
Okay, here we go.
Hello, this is Sven, and I'm from the West Brussels. You know, I have broad shoulders and blue eyes and a nice package.
Oh.
Pure. And I like to do the CrossFit, but I want to put on more of the muscle, you know, so I can be a big macho man.
Okay.
His
All
name
right.
was Ben.
So it's Hans from Brussels. He's broad shoulders and a nice package. He does CrossFit. He
all
wants to
right.
put on muscle.
So-
well, listen, I think.
You said I was taking this one.
Yeah, you take that
Are
one.
you taking that one?
Was it Hans or Sven? Was it Sven or
Hans.
Hans? Okay.
You said, I mean,
I couldn't
feel like you
remember.
know
I was in
him
the
more than
movies.
me.
I was stuck in the Frozen movie. Go ahead.
Okay, so I think like a starting point for a lot of people that do CrossFit that want to put on more muscle, like a little bit more of like choosing to not do it all is a good start.
You got 30 seconds.
You got 30 seconds. so a lot of CrossFitter, they'll like do the strength and then do like a ton of cardio with it. So go for like 3 days of pure hypertrophy focus.
So just dedicated hypertrophy, like Monday, Wednesday, Friday,
Yes.
maybe CrossFit on the off days.
Yes.
I think that's a great formula.
Yes.
All right.
That's the form. We can keep going longer the way we're filming.
Oh, okay.
So
Well, we
that's
don't
a-
have to stop
that's
at
a
30
great-
minutes, so we'll keep this going. Because I know we got more callers on the line, so why not?
Well, let's just finish this one.
Well, hey, so let's go beyond that. Like,
So that's a great formula to start. Monday, Wednesday, Friday, do legs, back, upper body, and then do CrossFit in those off day.
but you're talking about hypertrophy training, right? And
Yes.
so I think there's context here. Like, if you're a CrossFitter, functional fitness athlete, like you can still do this stuff in the CrossFit gym. You don't need advanced machines
No,
or
no,
to
no,
abort
no.
your community. Like, stay in the gym just with barbells and dumbbells. There's tons of good programs out there. We write a lot of the
We
one when it
love
comes to
them.
hypertrophy and functional
Yes.
fitness. And one 3-day-a-week program that I really love, and you know this is the first program I ever wrote, was that 90-day Get Huge program, where it's just like, hey, there are tempos, there's volume, there's a progression. It's only 3 days a week. You can still do it in the gym. In fact, there are a number of gyms that are actually running it as their unquote strength
Yes.
program in their affiliate programming. And you could easily integrate this because it shouldn't be one or the other. It shouldn't be like CrossFit or bodybuilding. You should be able to blend it both.
You should be able to like kind of blend everything if you like do it the right way.
Yep.
And you can still do like some cardio. What we're talking about, don't do like
The same way I blend,
just this
I blend endurance training and distance running with bodybuilding now because tell them how far I ran the other day.
okay. You ran for
17
a mile.
miles minus 13 miles.
All right, so you can do it all. Go check 90 Day Get Huge.
Okay.
3 days of hypertrophy a week. If you want to do cardio on those days, stay on a zone 2. So lower your heart rate.
Well, we'll talk more about you using words, and I don't know what that means. What is zone 2?
Zone 2 is like 110 to 30 beat per minute heart
So okay, so
rate.
you can have a conversation with
You can
somebody.
have a conversation. It won't break down like muscle too
It's
much.
just aerobic.
So it's just
Okay.
aerobic. You're just breathing a little bit more heavy. But if you go in the high intensity, you're starting to break down muscle.
So when your lungs start burning, when you can no longer
too
hold
much,
a conversation,
yes.
the heart rate gets up to like 150 beats a minute.
Yes.
That's okay.
So you want to use that to, have a higher energy expenditure so you can get leaner while you put on muscle.
Plus, we love the benefits of like slow, steady state cardio,
Yes.
just in terms of like energy, metabolism, mental acuity, even like doing long, and we say cardio. Remember when like a 20-minute workout sounded insane to us?
Yes, and then
When
we
we're
prepped for a
20
show.
minutes, that's way too long. And then you fast forward to like when we're doing bodybuilding shows, and we're doing like 2.5 hours of cardio.
Yeah, I was doing 3+ hour a day at the end, which was,
Okay.
a lot of walking. All right.
Wait, I got one more? Is there
No.
another one? I think that,
I'm
we got to do, I think
tired.
there's one more. Is it a girl? Maybe it's not. I don't know if there's one more. Do we have one more? I see that.
We can save it for...
I see Jeremy has the light is blinking. Jeremy, you got to hit the code on the phone.
Jeremy is freaking out. All right, this is it.
No, we
Dave,
got one more. Here we go.
No, this is it for
Wait.
today. This is it.
Yeah, it's a Remy from down in the bayou.
Oh,
man. I like eating some of that fried chicken real greasy like. I take it and I rub it all over my belly. And I just don't know what I got to do to keep my sweet tooth when it comes to some of that sweet, sweet chicken.
Oh, Remy from down in the bayou likes his fried chicken. I like fried chicken too.
Yeah, go answer.
Before this goes
Answer.
completely off the rails, it can be hard to kick that sweet tooth, whether it's actually for sweets or for fried chicken or whatever it is. And I think one thing that people sometimes think is that a diet has to be like an all or none kind of venture. Like, hey, if I don't do the whole thing completely strict, weighted, measured, hitting my targets every day, then it's just like a waste. And that's just not the case. I think for somebody who does have that hankering for whatever, for me, sometimes it's like spaghetti, orange chicken, burgers,
Blueberry pie,
blueberry
cookies,
pie. I'll eat an
pancake.
entire blueberry pie. For me, those things actually help me stay compliant with my diet because I have a certain day of the week. Typically, we would do this on, say, like a Thursday, where we would say, okay, Thursday is the free meal, and the free meal is where you get to have that thing you want, or but that's the window, that's the time and place for it.
Well, there's a place and a purpose for it. So if you're dieting hard and eating very clean all week, increasing your insulin sensitivity all week, and then you have one day where you eat more and you eat that sweet thing once a week, it can help like increase your metabolism,
That's right.
shoot your insulin up, help you recover at night. And then as you go back in, your diet, you're most likely going to get leaner.
When I have athletes that are doing like
So
long...
on purpose, with purpose, like there's definitely room to eat those treats.
When I have athletes that are doing long diets, and usually this is like prepping for a show where it's not a 4-week kind of thing, but it's more of like a 16 to 20 week type of thing. Once they get down to the point where we're not going to really be able to do much more cardio and we really can't take many more calories away, everything is low, they get to the point where their metabolism can shut down unless you keep it going.
Yes.
That free meal at the end of the
It's really
week,
good for that.
it helps replenish their glycogen stores and allows them to get back and then be strict, because like usually Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, it's getting like increasingly harder, and like, oh, I'm really
Wednesday's
hungry.
always hard.
But then Thursday, like that's your free meal, and all you gotta do is stay tight until 4 p.m. and you get to have your thing and enjoy and laugh about how good things taste. So good when you're hungry.
Well, it tastes good after you fast and your hormones get balanced and your insulin sensitivity is great.
You taste every morsel. It's so much more enjoyable. But
Strawberry are like the best thing.
if Remy from the Bayou, who likes to rub fried chicken on his belly, if he's doesn't know how to kick it, the answer is you don't have to completely kick it.
But you can do it on purpose with purpose.
And give yourself
and get benefit out of it.
Yeah, do it with discipline so that it's giving you something.
Yes.
Right. All right.
All right,
that was a fun-
this
that
is
was a
it
fun
for
podcast.
today
We went
because
over 30
mommy
minutes.
is tired and it's very late.
If you have any questions that you'd like to do for next week's podcast, feel free to dial in to Camille's cell phone. I'm going to put the number at the... No, I'm not gonna, but if you want to DM us at Thunderbro, DM us a question. If you'd like us to answer it, you can also DM it at Feroce Fitness, and we'll bring it up on the podcast next week and give you an answer, and we'll give you a phone number to leave a creepy message on.
All right, thank you guys.